With increased competition for university applications, it's important as ever to stand out of the crowd. And one of the ways to achieve it is to write a wonderful personal statement. If you think about it, the UCAS application here in the UK requires several components. So for example, such as predicted grades, reference from your school. For some university, it might be entrance exams, and finally personal statement. So if you're applying for a course and they're asking roughly for 3 A's hypothetically, everyone applying for that course will have bare minimum of 3 A's. And yes, there will be some variation in grades, but at the end of the day, they'll be very similar. The entrance exams are quite rare and only for specific degrees. Schools normally will write strong references for their students. So the component that will make you stand out of the crowd is the personal statement. In this video, I'm going to give you 5 tips to help you write an amazing personal statement that helped me get into my 5 universities, including Cambridge, and the framework that I use for my students to also get into the top universities across the country. So let's get into it. The only thing I ask in return, please like this video, subscribe to my channel to hear more videos like this, and let's get into the video. Tip number 1, go through your subject portfolio. Subject portfolio is a collection of summaries of lectures, books, articles you might have read for your favorite subject. What I recommend my students is to get an A5 hardbound notebook to use basically to write anything that you come across relevant to your subject. I recommend my students getting this notebook at the beginning of year 12. If you start going through extension material, by the time you actually come to apply to universities, you might not remember. It's very important to keep track of all the information. So what I highly recommend if you go through lectures, article, etc., at the end of it, always write 3 to 5 bullet points of the conclusions and summaries from that lecture, for instance. By the time you come to write your personal statement, you will have those summaries ready and you can pick and choose the key informations that are important for your personal statement. In some cases, it happens that students haven't done a lot of reading, but they suddenly decided to go for their subject. And that's okay, because if you listen to my tip number 3, you will find out the way to jump ahead the curve and get your extension reading and material as fast as possible. Number 2, decide on your structure before you write your personal statement. So it's very important to have a structure in place. The reason is you're supposed to write an A4 document of your favorite subject and suddenly bring all your interest and passion in one place. And it's going to be tough. The key thing is if you have structure and you know what you're writing for each paragraph, that means you will keep to it and you're not going to waste time. The structure might take a couple of hours to decide. However, it will save you time writing the personal statement down the line. What is the structure that I highly recommend and use it with all my students? I recommend writing 5 paragraphs. Number 1, introduction. So in introduction, you need to discuss why you want to study your chosen course and what was the turning point that made you want to study. What really grew your passion? In paragraphs number 2, 3, and 4, I call them academic paragraph 1, academic paragraph 2, and academic paragraph 3. In those academic paragraphs, you need to decide on the 3 concepts that are relevant to your subject. So for example, if you're doing biology, it could be about cell structure or DNA or cancer biology or anything you prefer. If it's the personal statement for English, you might discuss certain themes that authors have thought. And it's important to compare and contrast things as well. But anyhow, you need to decide on 3 separate academic paragraphs, and usually those concepts will emerge from your extra reading, so you know what your passions are. Quite commonly, guys, you do EPQs, so that will guide you, for example, for one of the themes of the paragraphs. But if you decide these 3 paragraphs in advance, then you can always keep to those, and it will be easier to write the personal statement. And in the paragraph 5, that's about your extracurricular, what you've done outside of your academic work, and what skills and qualities it taught you as a person. And then you need to have a beautiful sentence at the end saying how it's, how these qualities together with your academic passions make you an ideal candidate to study the course of the university. Again, guys, if you need more help on writing personal statement, of course, get in touch with me, but this structure really should help you and start you off on your case. Tip number 3, regardless of whether you've done extension reading and work or whether you haven't up to this stage, start now. There are so many resources that you can choose, but I can appreciate it can be very hard for you because suddenly you're required to be like, find the things that you love about that specific subject. So let me help you. Depending on what subject you do, either it's biology, economics, history, English, whatever, you can watch free online lectures actually given by the universities. So for example, universities like MIT, LSE, Harvard, Cambridge, Oxford, they provide free lectures online. Or if you like a certain topic, you can just Google this topic and say X lecture. There will be experts across the world that work on the academic topics of your interest. So what I define as a lecture on YouTube is something that is recorded by university and will be at least 40 minutes. This is important because if you watch it, you can then add to your personal statement and say, I watched this lecture by Professor X on this topic, and this lecture focused on this, and I really liked it because of this, and you go on and you discuss it. If you haven't attended some fancy courses, it's okay, because these resources are free available for everyone. If my students haven't done the extra extension work, then I direct them straight away and say, go and explore the lectures and see what you like, because you can put those lectures into your personal statement. The other thing is, yes, you can read the books, but you can appreciate by this stage, if you haven't done the extension work, yes, absolutely read the books in advance. But if you haven't done it, it's going to take lots of time. So what you need to appreciate that in the academic university world, the lecturers and professors who specialize in their certain subjects, they do write books, but they also write academic papers. So your job in this case is to go and explore them. And papers will be maybe 5 to 8 pages. You don't have to read everything word for word at this stage. You could maybe just read an abstract, but you can also add these papers within your academic paragraphs and discuss what you liked about these papers. Or maybe there are some concepts you don't like, and maybe you can compare those concepts within the academic paragraph. So please don't worry if you haven't done your research. Start your research now, get the notebook, write the summaries as you go along. But if you spend like a good couple of days searching around, all the information is there and it will really give you a head start with writing your personal statement. Tip number 4, make it about your conclusions rather than regurgitating information you've learned. This is very important because it's a very easy mistake to make. Remember, when you apply for universities, you do not need to tell the lecturers and the professors about the information you learned. You need to present it in a way saying, yes, okay, I've read this, or I'm really interested in this topic, but this is my opinion, or this is what I think about it, or this is how it connects to different topics within this subject. Because the worst thing to do is to read this stuff and actually regurgitate it back to the people who are going to read your personal statements. That's not the whole point. And the university application is about taking that information in and making your own conclusions. And this is an opportunity to show your analytical thinking within your personal statement. If you read the book, you watched a lecture, or you read some articles, make a conclusion. What does that mean to you? What have you learned from it? What excites you about this sphere of information? How can you compare it to maybe other researches that have been done in that particular field? So it's your opportunity to shine. And guys, if at the end of the day you're like, actually, I'm really not enjoying doing this, it might be a sign that you are actually applying for a wrong subject. So it might be an opportunity to take a step back and decide whether you're on the right course for this particular academic subject. My tip number 5, send your application earlier. So UCAS deadline is normally around January, and for early applicants, it's around October. What I would highly recommend, particularly if you're not an early applicant, is to still submit your application as soon as possible. The reason is the universities, they will start giving out the places for their particular courses. I've helped so many students now with their personal statements, and I always recommend to them submit sooner. In some of the cases, my students actually got unconditional offers just because they've sent their applications sooner compared to other people. So I would really highly recommend submitting your application even by the end of October or beginning of November. You also don't want to be worrying about your personal statement during Christmas, because that's the time to revise for your mocks and start preparing for your exams. So it's better to get it out of the way. So I hope, guys, you found this video super useful. Please, if you have any further questions, or you as a parent or a student looking to get help with your personal statement, please get in touch. I support my students on guiding them on how to do their personal statement. Please press the likes and subscribe to my channel. Any questions, get in touch, and I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye.